Welcome to episode 138 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the bullcrap edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. It's a double entendre, as I usually am like to do. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host. I'm with my co-host Josh Fine. Crazy weekend of racing, a lot of nonsense, and our football teams had differing results for sure. I think you'll have some takes on that.
I definitely feel like I got a lot on that, but I mean, it was definitely a weekend of bullcrap, depending on your perspective. For me, bullcrap on the Jaguars. They should have won against the Houston Texans, and now a lot of people are changing their minds or adjusting their perspective on Trevor Lawrence. Bullcrap on the potentially on the finish of the race for the NASCAR Cup Series, depending on who your driver was and if they made the playoffs or not. Bullcrap if you were in Formula One and didn't like how Formula One went this season with Max Verstappen going on a tear throughout the year and winning the title, and many other things. A lot of bullcrap to go around this weekend, but hey, we're here for it.
Absolutely, we're gonna go through all of it. Cup Series at the Roval. It was basically a procession, like most of the road races have been this year. There was debris on the racetrack for essentially a whole stage. End of the second stage and into the third. William Clyde Elliott II was going to win yet another road race, and then they threw a yellow with 2 to go. And from there, things really got out of hand, which saw Christopher Bell go and airmail it into the next round. Chase Briscoe airmailed it into the backstretch chicane with an assist from his buddy Cole Custer. And that's probably the best move of Cole Custer's career. It's better than when he made the restart move at Kentucky for his one Cup win. But there are a lot of butthurt Chevrolet drivers in the process, one of them being the defending series champion Kyle Larson. We'll get into who's in and who's out heading into Las Vegas. Some news, of course. Colleague Racing made some announcements, kind of this follow back on that, and they've set up their whole entire lineup for the 2023 season. Xfinity, speaking of Colleague Racing, AJ Allmendinger on a heater wins yet another road course race, 4th consecutive win at the Roval. He's won 2 races in a row. He's won 5 races this season. He's giving himself a backdoor shot at a championship at Phoenix, and that's all you can ask for, really, for Colleague. They really haven't had a lot of pace at times this year relative to Junior Motorsports and Gibbs with Keebler and Gagson. So we'll see who's out on that side as well. The Formula One race, the Japanese Grand Prix. Yes, the Japanese Grand Prix came back for the first time since 2019. That was good. It rained for a good part of the weekend, and it was an interesting qualifying, but that was where it really ended. The start of the race we'll get into was somewhat intriguing, but then from there it kind of went off the rails. There was a tractor on the racetrack that almost took out Pierre Gasly. There was spinning out and traction issues to the point where they had to stop the race. FIA making up rules as they go, since they become like they do WWE crap like NASCAR does, probably because Liberty Media owns them, so it kind of makes sense. And it makes sense that they have a phony, fraudulent guy and team who cheats, winning a 2nd consecutive world championship. But that's part of the bull crap if you don't pick up on that. I'm pretty sure you do, but I figure that is. And then speaking of a fellow, bull crapper, Shane Van Gisbergen, 19th win of the season. Last time that Holden will be on the mountain, at least for a very long time. In the Bathurst 1000, he wins with Goth Tanda in the great race, beating Chaz Mostert for Walkinshaw Andretti United. Their last few races before they go to Ford next year. Cameron Waters finishes third, so he doesn't finish second in the great race this time. He finishes third. He got run over early in the race and came back, so credit to him. And Tickford Racing, he's really great on the mountain. He qualified on pole. They rained out the top 10 shootout because they had serious issues with ponding and water running across the racetrack, so they weren't going to be able to have a safe top 10 shootout. We'll get into that in the GSP Roundup. World Superbikes in Portugal. The British Touring Car Championship ended their 2022 season at Brands Hatch. Then we'll preview MotoGP, Moto2 in Australia, Phillip Island. So probably we'll get a Casey Stoner appearance this weekend, which will be nice. Probably we'll also bring up the end of the W Series, canceling their remaining 2022 races. That's unfortunate for the series and for women drivers. There is good news in other areas, like Kelly Moss Racing, who does Porsche Cup, and other racing entities. They're going to run a shootout for women drivers, so that's a positive. Jamie Chadwick might end up coming to the United States because it doesn't seem like she has any options in Europe to run Formula 2 or Formula 3. So the Formula 1, those teams' losses again possibly for IndyCar to see her possibly go and drive for Andretti Autosport. We'll talk football. Niners get a victory but lose a bunch of players to injury. Josh's Jaguars lose an ugly game against the Houston Texans. And I have Trevor Lawrence on multiple teams, so I felt the pain too. I've been a believer in him, but even I'm starting to wonder.
Yep.
We'll get into that. We'll get into our fantasy teams. I mean, Josh's team's looking pretty good. Has a good shot to win against Joey. I'm losing already after Josh Jacobs scored a touchdown, 14-0. You're not going to get play-by-play from me this week, unlike last week, because it's not the 49ers. Now, if the Yankees are playing in Game 5 next week, or whatever game it would be at that point, I think it is Game 5, you'll get play-by-play from me then. But let's get into it. Cup Series, Charlotte Roval, Bank of America Roval 400 sees Christopher Bell, who led only 2 laps of the race, the last 2 laps. He was up there, I guess. I mean, he was contending. He was running the race to win the race, but he didn't have outright speed. I think it was the 16 of AJ Allmendinger and Tyler Reddick, who's won multiple road races this year, 3 races total, and then, of course, William Clyde Elliott II, were the 3 best cars. Joey Logano, after winning the first stage, disappeared. He did get stage points in the second stage, but after the first stage was basically irrelevant. Allmendinger, I think, had the best car. He led, Elliott led the most laps in the end, along with Elliott led the most laps, and Logano, and Allmendinger, Tyler Reddick. So those were the 4 guys that really dominated the race. Or other people sprinkled in that led laps, but those are the 4 dominant figures. The latter 3 were the ones that dominated the race. Questionable late race caution that, and I always say, and I've said it for years, at Hendrick Motorsports, when their drivers lead, they don't make those phantom caution calls. Well, the caution was out there for a long time, and they could have called it at any time. Supposedly, somebody ran that billboard out onto the groove with like 2 laps to go, and they had to call the caution. I mean, at that point, when you consider the stuff that was going on with Daniel Suarez with no power steering and Kyle Larson wrecking himself and knocking himself out of the playoff, breaking a toe link, and some of the other shit that was going on, the fact that you throw that caution in that spot seemed convenient. It changed the race for sure, Josh. And I mean, for me as a Chase Briscoe fan, when the Suarez deal happened, I was like, okay, all right, we have a semblance of a chance. But I figured like Cindric or somebody else would go or Larson would pass him. I'm like, all right, fine. Then the Larson thing happened. I'm like, okay, so now we're really in good shape. We should probably be able to make it in. Then Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch cleaned out Chase Briscoe on that restart, the first overtime restart or whatever it was. Like it is, I don't think it was overtime when they had that caution. Yeah, the debris caution was at lap 106, and I think the race is 109 lap distance. So yeah, then they called. Then that caution caused a red flag, and for 6 minutes, and then they had the last restart there, and he made a late breaking move that looked even crazier than it probably was in reality, because Cole Custer essentially stopped, which a lot of people are butthurt about, which is great. Whether it's the tears of Larson fans or the tears of the 5 people that are Austin Dillon fans or the 25 people that are Eric Jones fans, being all the people that were aggrieved. I mean, Tyler Reddick cleaned out Clyde. There were other people that are getting cleaned out at the end of that race. It was pretty epic. It looked like Noah Gragson driving ability went to everybody else in that sense at the end of that race. But a lot to dig into, a lot to dive into. Kevin Harvick looked like he had stolen one, the closer, but Christopher Bell had a rocket ship on new tires, and Adam Stevens showing once again why he's one of the best crew chiefs in the business, taking what looked like a more than likely scenario of getting eliminated out of the playoffs when they were the best car in the round of 16 to backdooring in with a win at the Roval. Second road course win of Christopher Bell's career. So interesting for sure. He likes these infield road course type races. And Toyota's not had pace on road courses all year, but he seemingly was up there and had enough pace to justify himself. But great job by them. The Gibbs still has 2 representatives in the playoffs. The 45 got eliminated out of the Owners' Points Championship, but so 2 Toyotas, 3 Fords, with 2 Penske cars, so Briscoe, Logano, and Blaney, and then 3 Chevrolets with Clyde, Byron, who probably shouldn't have been there in the first place after he ran over Denny Hamlin, and they rescinded the penalty because he drives for Hendrick, and he's a freaking pasty fuck. And then Ross Chastain keeps Trackhouse alive. But a lot to dive into, Josh, in that race for sure.
Yeah, definitely a lot to dive into here. And I mean, the first 2 stages of this race was basically pit strategy. When you look at it, it looked like 2 differing strategies. The Logano and Byron staying out, and then you had Reddick and Allmendinger pitting before the stage, and then into stage 2 they both take the lead, and they noted, the broadcast noted that that was an important restart because whoever took the lead there possibly could have the race victory. In a lot of ways it's starting to sound like, because of course this is a road course car now racing on a road course with a next gen car. Started to sound, kind of like an IndyCar race or IMSA race. Yeah, Formula One, where a pass for the lead coming off of a yellow could mean the race. And we've seen that a lot in NASCAR over the years. Green flag pit stops with the leaders taking lead on the pit cycle or whatever. But just like how early it came, that type of announcement came, compared to where it normally comes, often during the end of stage two, where there's at least two pit stops left, compared to maybe the last pit stop, showed it was very, very much like real road course series rather than stock cars just merely racing on road course. But of course, the real controversy did not come until about the last 20 laps or so, when things started to unfold. I mean, you had Daniel Suarez already get into it with Corey LaJoy, and then later on Trackhouse with their stuff with the axle braking for Ross Chastain and having issues there and going to the garage. Kyle Larson breaking a toe link after hitting the wall, and things are starting to unfold. The dominoes started to fall, and then the caution for what's basically a cardboard sign comes out on lap 105. So you have a couple of laps to go here, 10 laps, or less than 5 laps to go here on a 109 lap race. Caution comes out for cardboard sign. Debatable whether it should have even been there in the first place, and that's really set things sideways. And then that allows Kevin Harvick to take the lead off the restart. AJ Allmendinger gets bumped out of the way, out of the way there. Then Chase Elliott gets spun out. Then on the backstretch, a lot of stuff happened, and Chase Briscoe got spun out as well, and that looked like that might be the end of his race there, right? But it wasn't. And then I guess the curbing in the turtles got messed up, and that caused another caution. They red flagged the race, and then everything all hell broke loose from there. And then you saw more stuff. Austin Cindric got spun out there as well, trying to outbrake into the corner, and I think maybe some wheel hop or something caused that. But you get to the last lap. Chase Briscoe needs to get into the chase or to the playoffs next round, and his teammate looks like he slows down. I mean, this is what I thought on TV is like, Chase Briscoe. I mean, I give him credit for dive bombing into the corner because he needed to do that anyways. But it just looked like there was a problem. It almost like I thought like somebody else had crashed, and Chase was like, "Yeah, I'm going for it here. Try to pick up a position." Going into the chicane, and then it looks like whatever reason Cole Custer slowed down or basically brake checked into the corner for Austin Dillon, and allows basically his teammate passes both of them and they get into the chase. So or go to the next round of 8. So a lot of controversy there with how that ended. Is it race manipulation? I kind of, to me, I think there on some level it is, but it's to be expected now these days with the playoffs. Is it as blatant as Clint Boyer and Brett Griffin and those guys from 2013? Probably not, because obviously, is your arm itchy, scratch it, that kind of thing. That's from 2013 at Richmond. That kind of thing is never going to happen again, and teams probably learned when it comes to politics and stuff that of how decisions to be made of who gets to how to manipulate finishes. Not going to be as blatant like that, but certainly there's always going to be room for interpretation and room for race manipulation, results manipulation. We don't, we see this in other series, and we've seen it in Formula One over the years. Politics between teammates and stuff. I mean, freaking last year championship race for Formula One. I mean, Sergio Perez was blocking Lewis Hamilton in the early stages, of that race, and even though Lewis ended up taking the lead there, he was definitely trying, to impede his race for Lewis, so that Max could get a huge advantage. And of course, gave him the nickname Minister of Defense there. And over here in NASCAR, you see Cole Custer just jam the brakes into the corner, and they say he had a flat tire and everything. And I don't know. Finished in
24th, it looks
24th.
like.
So okay, maybe he did have a flat tire because obviously he was in the top 10. Uh, you know finish. He was in ninth place, ninth place. So maybe he did have a flat tire. So maybe it looks legitimate there. Maybe it's all convenient. Maybe it was legitimate, but just the finish of it just looked fishy, and very very convenient there. But that's my take on it. Really, is that it just looked fishy, and if they showed Chase Briscoe's data, Parker, like I said last night, Parker tweeted out his data and everything.
Parker Kligerman.
Yep. So Clearman showed the data from the SMT graphs or whatever, throttle traces. I mean, just show the thing from Custer, just eliminate any doubt, fans questioning it, regardless of where you're saying. I think it doesn't really matter if you're a Larson fan or anybody else, or a Briscoe fan or a Custer fan. Just show the data and, eliminate any reasonable doubt for interpretation there. Just, you know, show the data and show that, yeah, he did have a flat tire. So, and even then, like, there's replays. Sometimes it's hard to determine everything. So just show the freaking data and let that way people see what actually happened. But you have that. And so now now Larson's eliminated, and by the way, now he's seen it on both sides being eliminated, right? So go back to 2018, the first ever Roval race, destroyed right front and barely makes it into the next round of the playoffs, and then here gets eliminated on the last lap. So he's seen it on both ends, goes both ways. So that's how it crumbles for 5 team. That's how it ends up for 14 cars. So we move on from there. Now the guy, going by points without the playoffs, the 16th best driver on points, Chase Briscoe, is now sitting in, the transfer, the last spot to get in for the round of 8. So, going to be a lot for him to get into, this final race at Phoenix, which he won. So could be a huge advantage if he somehow makes it into the final 4 here in NASCAR at the end of the season here at Phoenix in a month from now. But certainly possible now. And then so that's pretty much just the controversy there. It all started from the cardboard box, or sign, which should that even been there in the first place. And by the way, even Chase Briscoe had said that thing had been sitting there for at least 20 laps, and I think even Hamlin or somebody else said that it'd been sitting there since at least maybe the beginning of the second stage. So definitely a questionable call on NASCAR there when they could have thrown that caution. So that's how NASCAR is, and continue to when they pull the WWE flag or whatever you want to call it when it's convenient for them to do it. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll go from there. But interesting note though. So one last note for me, but the Christopher Bell first career victory, road course Daytona. I was there. Of course, road course Charlotte race here. We were
Joe.
given access to, and I had tickets to. So interesting enough, Chase or Christopher Bell, the last 2 times I had tickets to a NASCAR event, and actually attend, or well, can't really say that, but I wasn't able to go this time, but just had other plans and stuff. But interesting enough, those 2 times, he actually won. So not really sure what the connection is there, but I thought of that a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
get there's the proxy thing
yeah,
with our regular contributor
Joe.
and good friend Joe Passero,
Yep,
who you met up with last week. He was at the Roval with his father. He is going to
yep.
be on next week to go and give his thoughts on all things NASCAR. He was there. He saw Christopher Bell make it. So in the end, by proxy, we have
Yeah, by
connection.
proxy there. So yeah, somehow,
Where
yeah.
we don't have any connection in winning at New Hampshire,
No.
and or the fact that he was afraid of the lobster. We definitely have some sort of connection to
Okay,
him
so when
winning
we
on road
had
course.
we had tickets or attended a NASCAR road course race. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess if I end up attending Watkins Glen for Cup, which I doubt, I'm probably would rather go for 6 hours, but maybe we'll see if Chris Bell wins that one. But yeah, the whole the roller coaster of emotions that I was going through at the end of that race, I was thinking that Briscoe was out. They ran the race as though They were trying to score stage points. They were on the periphery, on the back end of the top 10. Nothing of great significance. They didn't look like a contender. It was those 3 Chevys that were really the fast cars. And Cindric ran like crap, which was surprising. But, when you look at his season in general, I mean, yes, Cindric has got a 15.6 average, and he has 9 top 5s, or 5 top 5s, 9 top 10s. I mean, it's funny how he actually has better statistics than Chase Briscoe. He has a better qualifying average by 2 positions, essentially, or a position and a half, and he's got 2 positions on him by finishes. In terms of full-time drivers, Chase Briscoe is 21st in average, and he's in the final 8 with a chance, if he somehow or another wins one of these next 3 races, to get into the final 4. I mean, this is the thing that really needs to happen to go and set people off. Ryan Blaney needs to get into the final 4 and finish second. To insert name here that isn't in the final 4, and he wins the championship. That will go and set people off. When he wins, people thought it was bad with BZF when they freaked out when Matt Kenseth won one race and he Dale Earnhardted a championship. If Ryan Blaney doesn't win a race this year, gets to the final 4, gets to Phoenix and finishes second, people had issues with Matt Crafton. We talked about it. I think it was on this. We had the show when Crafton won his 3rd championship, right? I believe we did, and we talked about it on this show. The fact that, because that was 2020, right? Am I remembering, or I'm misremembering? I'm going into the weeds with the Matt Crafton reference, but then it's Menard. So, it's 2019. So no, I was on Talking in Circles. Okay, so it was Talking in Circles when we talked about the fact that Matt Crafton was dog crap and he won the championship because he was the best finisher out of the 4 on that night. I can't wait, because Ryan Blaney's smoking hot Hooters waitress girlfriend, if he wins that championship, that would be great. Honestly, I'm all for the chaos. I want to see Chase Briscoe make the final 4 to just see people get mad because he cleaned out Tyler Reddick at the dirt track and gave Kyle Busch his last win in a Gibbs car, or else he wouldn't have even made the playoffs. He cleaned himself out and basically got Kyle Larson at the 600 when he should have won the 600, and we wouldn't be in this place because he would have won 2 races at least. Kyle Larson goes and gets eliminated. Tyler Reddick cleans out it. I mean, there's so many things about it. The reality of the world is this: you're the defending series champion, Kyle Larson. You won 10 races last year. This year, you're ordinary. And the pendulum swung again. Basically, what we're seeing is Hendrick Motorsports put their emphasis on making sure Kyle Larson not only could come back and be on theoretically stable ground after all the bullshit he did, and giving him best cars and best of everything after Chase Elliott had won the championship. They went next level and showed the potential that Jimmy Johnson saw in that team with Cliff Daniels and was building towards. So if Jimmy Johnson had decided, I want to stick around another year, who's to say he wouldn't have won number 8? Just saying. 10 wins, Kyle Larson wins a championship. This year, he's been quite ordinary.
Everybody has, kind of.
Yeah, it's been, and that's true. Yeah, it's a great point. This new car has really brought things more closer together. Clyde and Alan Gustafson seemingly have figured out some things with it, but in the round of 16, he was quite ordinary. He was 60 points behind Christopher Bell after 3 races. In in the original playoff format, he'd have been fucked. And that's what it should have been. You got there, you earned your regular season championship, you shit the bed in 2 out of 3 races or all 3 races, whatever the fuck he did. Should have been over. Who cares? Good job, Clyde. You did a good job in the regular season. Doesn't matter anymore. That's what playoffs are supposed to be. It's not, we reset. I mean, there should be some semblance. I mean, that's another discussion we'll get into probably next week in regards to how to really value regular season performance relative to what you do in the playoff when Chase Briscoe is in the final 8 and you got the likes of Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., et cetera. I mean, I'm looking at this now. I'm just looking at it on Racing Reference. Kyle Larson has the 5th best average finish, even though he didn't have, he made a lot of mistakes. He said it himself. He didn't do what he needed to do. The 4 guys ahead of him are essentially the 4 of the most likely guys to make the Final 4. Ross Chastain's right behind him. I mean, when you're the defending series champion, you have to show, and you're a lead dog at Hendrick Motorsports, they're essentially running 3 cars now. I mean, they should have made the final 8. William Byron might have screwed him over because of the bullshit rescinding of the points penalty. He probably wouldn't have been in this spot anyway. He probably would have made it. But one Hendrick guy gets in at the expense of the other in this sense. And so, whatever. Kyle Larson's fans can cry about it. He'll go and run a sprint car and win a bunch of races.
I mean,
so whatever.
We still have Homestead left, and he's been pretty good there too. So
he's
still
good at
opportunity.
Vegas and he's good at Homestead. So the notion is, and it was funny I was thinking about this, about all these guys that are really good at Homestead and all these USAC guys. So, and all these sprint car guys. Tyler Reddick loves Homestead. Has won 2 championships there.
Chase.
Kyle Larson loves Homestead. Chase Briscoe loves Homestead. He won his first truck race at Homestead. And he won an Xfinity race, I think. He was tailback in one Xfinity race and came all the way back to like 5th or some shit. And he's been good there. You know, Christopher Bell's run well there in the truck series and Xfinity series. So Homestead in Vegas, this round, if you want to see some real, this previous round was definitely a lot of cluster fuck shit. This round here, because the Martinsville race is not going to be a race. Everybody and their mother is already saying that race is going to be a procession. There's not going to be a whole lot of passing. So qualifying is going to be insane. Track position is going to be at a premium. I mean, there's going to be people probably putting 2 tires on their car the whole day. They're not even going to be putting 4 tires on, trying to save track position, because it might become a fuel mileage race at that point because of how little they're passed at Martinsville. So trying to get yourself in and lock yourself in if you're in the final 8 through these next 2 weeks is huge. So that you don't even have to care about Martinsville. So we'll see about that. But Homestead's the race I'm looking forward to in terms of this round. Vegas is Vegas, but there is opportunities for sure. But Vegas is just meh. But we will see what happens with that. Points going into, so I mean, before I run, we never even got through. I never did the top 5. That's my fault, or top 10. Christopher Bell, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, first good finish he's had in this playoff. AJ Allmendinger, Justin Haley. So Colleague Racing, which will be a good segue in a few moments, gets 2 top 5 finishes there. Christopher Buescher, my wild card pick, finished 6th. Bubba Wallace finished 7th on a road course after having issues early. Tyler Reddick 8th. Chase Briscoe 9th. Bald Spot Dillon 10th. That Jones boy 11th. Corey LaJoy 12th. And Corey LaJoy and Daniel Suarez were getting into it at the end of the race after Daniel Suarez lost his power steering. Kind of wish Max Verstappen would have lost his power steering. That would have been nice. It would have made it a little more interesting. But yeah, there's that. Hamlin finished 13th, Byron 16th, Logano 18th, Chase Elliott, after getting cleaned out, finished 20th. Cindric, 21st. Ty Gibbs ran over a couple people yesterday, but then it's Ty Gibbs. And his butt buddy Noah Gragson driving the 48 car and likely driving the 48 car again this weekend. Finished 23rd. Blaney, 26th. And he wasn't happy at the end of the day. Larson, 35th with his issues. Daniel Suarez, 36th with a car that probably was a winning race car. And Ross Chastain, 37th with, I think he had toe link problems as well, right? I think he had a suspension issue, right?
I think so too.
And then Joey Hand got run over trying to go into the backstretch chicane, which you gotta love Speedway Motorsports. It's not just the stupid billboards they have everywhere. Every corner they have is sponsored by some random sponsor. So the chicanes are sponsored. Like Heartburn Turn actually was somewhat there. It was apropos for turn 1 at the Roval. The Heartburn Turn actually was a good sponsor. I think there was sponsored by DeWalt this year, so I don't know what the fuck happened. Marcus Smith must have forgotten to re-up with Tums, but they had some bullshit sponsor for the backstretch chicane. I think it was Trilogy or some bullshit medication or something, which you probably needed meds to get through that, whether it was whether it was self-medication or other medication, because that race sucked in terms of actual excitement. And then at the end of the race, it was manufactured excitement. And I say that from somebody who benefited from it. So we will move on to that. So the Cup Series points heading to the Vegas race this weekend. The reset Clyde is 20 points ahead of Joey Logano and 25 ahead of Ross Chastain, 28 ahead of Christopher Bell. Those are the 4 guys that right now are in the cutoff. And the battle between from Ross Chastain to Chase Briscoe is only separated by 15 points. If you add Logano into it, 2nd to 8th is only 20 points. So it is wide open. 3 drivers within 3 points, Christopher Bell, and then you have Will Byron and Blaney are -3. So there is a lot of volatility that can happen here in this next 3 races. The reality of the world is one driver at a minimum is going to make the final 4 on points. 3 guys could win. There could be a playoff winner each race, but one driver is going to make it on points. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially they tested at Homestead with this car. So we'll see how the tires hold up. That's been an issue this year with these tires, but then it's bad year on a rougher, older surface. Vegas is a newer surface. They raced there earlier this year. This will be the 2nd time going there. Probably want to go back and check the results from earlier this year. Bowman won that race, I think, on a late race restart. There was nonsense that went on, and he ended up winning late. But the fact is there's a lot of volatility. Going into the Xfinity Series, the drive for the Cure 250 at Charlotte Roval saw AJ Allmendinger win for the 4th consecutive year at this race. It was him and Ty Gibbs and Sheldon Creed essentially led the entire race. AJ Allmendinger, Ty Gibbs, Noah Gragson started tailback, finished 3rd. James Davison ran over everybody. because it's James Davison, Justin Allgaier, Alex Labay, a top 10 finish, so credit to him. He was one of only 2 non-playoff drivers to finish in the top 10. The 18 is in the playoffs, so that's why. Bruckshot Jones, Josh Berry, Ryan Sieg, Landon Castle. Sam Mayer finished 11th, Jeremy Clements 14th, Daniel Hemrick 17th, Timmy Hill, not my fault because Timmy Hill is right ahead of Austin Hill, finished 29th. Riley Herbst had a chance for a good amount of the day, and then he became Riley Herbst and finished 32nd. Stephen Parsons, credit to him. He got run over late in that race. He deserved way better than that. He was running in the top 10 all day. He looks like a guy that should be running full time. And Brad Perez, I've worn one of his shirt, the Brad Perez shirt from his debut in the ARCA series last year, and he ran this week, and him and his BFF Ryan Vargas finished 23rd and 24th, respectively. So credit to those guys. Marco, and we picked, you picked Marco, right? Last week. I have to go and check.
Yeah, I picked Marco Andretti as a wild card, and that did not work out.
Yeah, and I picked Danny Kvyat as a wild card, and it was sort of better, but in the end, he got into a bunch of argy-bargy. He finished 15th, so I guess that's a net victory there. He was getting into it with a lot of people. It's a different car, so it's interesting. He had never driven that type of car before, coming from the next gen and going into the gen, the whatever you want to call the COT Xfinity car. So that was interesting there, but it shows that Sam Hunt racing team has a lot of speed. But AJ Allmendinger goes out there, wins one stage, wins the race. He's only 12 points behind Noah Gragson. He has solidified himself with some good points. He's 6 points ahead of Ty Gibbs. He's 11 ahead of Justin Allgaier. And he's 22 ahead of, or 22, so 11, whatever. I have to go and see the driver points in. But AJ Allmendinger getting that win. It might be his last real opportunity to win a race. I think maybe Martinsville might be in there, but for AJ Allmendinger, knowing he's going back to the Cup Series, a big win in that spot for him and for Colleague Racing, while Daniel Hemrick gets eliminated from the playoffs as defending series champion.
Yeah, and interesting you bring that up with Hemrick also getting eliminated. So both defending series champions in the Cup and Xfinity both got eliminated on the same weekend. So interesting fact there. And then you talk about AJ Allmendinger and that maybe this is his last real opportunity to win, and certainly this is the best opportunity to win. But there are still chances on the last couple of mile and a halves coming up in Xfinity. Of course, he's won at Las Vegas before in the past, so there's still an opportunity there for him to win. And yeah, Martinsville would be another good opportunity there. So still a little bit of there, for him to try and get something. Of course, though, Junior Motorsports has been killing it on the mile and a halves this year, so it is a lot tougher ask for him to be able to do that. But does he have the opportunity to go for an Xfinity Series championship as season closes out? We'll have to see, but he has an opportunity right now. It's just how much does he want it, especially knowing that he's going to be back in the Cup Series next year. So we'll see what happens there. But this this one was a lot more like the NASCAR road course racing that we gotten used to over the years. A lot of accidents throughout the race, a lot of cautions. Definitely unlike the Cup race where only had 2 real cautions, or none of them were real, but none of them required actually stopping the race for an accident. So that was definitely a factor there. Ty Gibbs, I thought maybe he might have had a shot there at the end, but just couldn't get quite close enough to AJ to take the lead there. But he did lead laps up front, and I did talk about him picking in the race that he could be one to watch, and he's right there in second and led 24 laps. So it was not that far off, and Ty Gibbs, for somebody that's very young, surprising. I mean, people give him a lot of crap for the things he's done, and that's all true and everything. But one thing he has done really well is road course racing in his career, and to me, it's a little bit surprising just being how young he is, and the level of experience that he's come from. You wouldn't expect like a young guy racing Xfinity and ARCA and everything to be really good at road courses coming out the gate, but thus far he has, and of course got his first career win in Xfinity at Daytona Road Course. So there's that. Rest of the chase or playoffs field. Justin Allgaier, expected him to do well, and he did everything he needed to do and got a top 5. Gregson, I mean, I've felt like he was good or decent on road courses, and he gets out with a third, so good run there for him. Of course, didn't have to worry about it, after already winning, in previous races. He's already got 7 wins, so there's no real risk. But 7th place or 3rd place on a road course, shows though how he's been able to approach this, and shows that he is trying to get top 5s and secure the championship at the end, to put himself in that position. But we'll see. But yeah, this race a lot more wilder and a lot more what we kind of expect from NASCAR at road courses. And at least if you're looking for action, I think you definitely got a lot more action out of this one than you did in the Cup Series.
Yeah, a lot of carnage for sure, which is an Xfinity deal at road courses. But AJ Allmendinger wins. It doesn't really change who. It doesn't really change much of what's going on. Oh, look at her. That's a great look. I like that hairdo. But and she's got pumps on too. But then it's really those 4 that are in that playoff, and that really didn't change much. They all finished in the top 5, so it kind of goes with the season. I mean, Daniel Hemrick missing the next round, not surprising. They haven't run that great. Ryan Sieg tried, but they just lack. It seems like they lack a half a second on pace in those cars. I was thinking this to myself with the way that SHR is with that loser Riley Herbst. If Tony was smart, he'd go and kind of connect with the Sieg team or the SS Greenlight and try to go and get some extra cars into the fold that are fully funded or fully supported by Ford, and try to get some decent drivers in there, try to get some extra data to give themselves a chance, because there really is no Fords in the series. So the Toyotas are essentially the 3 Gibbs cars and Sam Hunt Racing. So you need to have data somewhere. I don't know what they get from running the Xfinity program when Riley Herbst is your driver. I mean, until these last, like this round, I've been against Johnny Klossmeyer, but this round has turned me around on him for Chase. Out a sign for Boswell, who did the invocation actually during the Xfinity race, which surprised me. But I probably shouldn't have if I dug into whatever his history. I guess he's he's big Jesus freak, so whatever. God bless him. Jesus couldn't save the fact that his driver sucks, though. But the fact that he should be a Cup crew chief right now, Stewart-Haas would benefit from like a crew chief swap of sorts. I was also of the thinking that, I know it's going back into the Cup Series, but it's like if SHR really wants to give themselves a chance to backdoor this miracle, kind of similar to the whole 2011 thing, they'd benefit from kind of getting the best of every crew and putting them all on the 14 car, putting Rodney Childers over on that side as well, helping both the 4 and the 14. That's what they have to do. Hopefully they can do that. But yeah, Herbst gets eliminated. Sieg, Hamrick, and Clements, who had issues at the first race with I think it was whatever the hell the first race was, Kansas, with a battery, and that basically ended him. He needed to win Talladega, couldn't do that. Didn't have the pace. They didn't wreck enough cars, and then he ran good for his team and whatever at the Roval, but it wasn't enough. He lost too many points. So that's the way the cookie crumbles in regards to the Charlotte Roval. I mentioned the points right now. Gagson has the lead. The cutoff is 11 points. Sees Josh Berry behind his teammate Justin Allgaier. It's 14 points or 15 points behind or between Allgaier and Austin Hill. Then Buckshot Jones and Sam Mayer round out the back there. The overall points, see Ryan Sieg right now 9th and Daniel Hemrick in 10th. So that'll be intriguing to see what that points battle looks like at the end of the year. I mean, I'm a Josh Berry fan, but I have a hard time believing he's going to make it in to the next round without a miracle. Homestead would probably be that miracle. Austin Hill's done well on super speedways, but that's essentially he's a one-trick pony right now. The other two guys aren't that good this year, but they're going to be teammates next year. So it's going to be interesting to see who makes it in. I think it's pretty certain who's going to make it in to the Final Four, but we will see. Okay. I was trying to get ahead of stuff because I'm behind so many places. Get into Formula One, Japanese Grand Prix. And they have news. How did Verstappen win the title? The confusion explained. They made up rules as they went. Because when you don't run X amount of laps of the race, it should be like half points or quarter points. But instead, Max Verstappen, after a 29 lap or 28 lap race, wins over his teammate Sergio Perez, who ended up getting second after a penalty on Charles Leclerc. Esteban Ocon fourth, Lewis Hamilton fifth. Sebastian Vettel in his last race at Suzuka finished sixth. Fernando Alonso seventh. It was a close battle by a hundredth of a second at the line. George Russell eighth. Nicholas Latifi gets points in his final Formula One season. And Lando Norris rounds out the top 10. Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon crashed on the first lap. Carlos Sainz had a huge wreck coming out of the hairpin, just after the hairpin. And then that was where all hell broke loose. Alex Albon had a hydraulic issue and had to stop his car. Pierre Gasly almost got fucked by a tractor. And then that was essentially that. But in the end, Verstappen qualified on pole. Leclerc had made a good start but wasn't able to hold that. when you look at what the lineup was, essentially the only thing that happened amongst the top, Sebastian Vettel advanced up the field, and Carlos Sainz was eliminated. That was essentially the only thing that changed, because you look at the top 11 of the race, Sainz was not there. Perez got the second because of the penalty, but it would have been third. Ocon, everybody else was kind of in order. Vettel actually made up a couple of positions. So credit to Sebastian Vettel. Credit to the Aston Martin team. But considering they're getting nailed with the cost cap breach as well, you got to wonder what they ended up doing. It was a procedural thing, they said, with paperwork. But Verstappen is a world champion. He's a world champion again for a second time. So people that don't want to watch Formula One, and people thought they hated it when Lewis Hamilton was winning F1, this is what you get when it's somebody else. And if you're a fan of fish lips, good on you. It'll hopefully it'll come back to him at some point middle of next year when they're not able to put parts on the car or something happens to them, because they've at some point that karma train has to hit those motherfuckers. But we will see what happens with that. Red Bull wins. They're more than likely going to win the Constructors' Championship at the U.S. Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time, Josh. If not there, it'll win it in Mexico. So, that's, I guess, all I have, because I was zoning out during the red flag after all the stuff that happened on the first lap. I went to sleep and missed everything, and then the bull crap really started after that.
Yeah, I fell asleep too during. I mean, I guess I forgot that the race was even on, to be honest, and this tells you how much. I mean, being honest here, it tells you how much we're paying attention really to Formula One with Verstappen dominating everything. There's not really a whole lot to look forward to. It doesn't matter if Lewis dominating or Verstappen dominating. There's a lot to take in, but or not a lot to take in, but I think I remember like trying to go to sleep, and then I opened Twitter, and then people were talking about uh Sergio, or not Sergio, but talking about Carlos Sainz, and it's like, well, what happened? And then he had a pretty bad incident there, and then went to sleep, and I woke up, and Verstappen was champion. So that's how it goes sometimes, but. I mean, they only ran 28 laps, and obviously bad weather throughout the entire weekend here in Suzuka in Japan, and 1-2 finish for Red Bull to win the championship, and more than likely going to win the constructors championship here very soon. And now they basically just get to have their coronation, or whatever you want to call it, their victory tour for the rest of the season, and we'll see. We'll see what they do after clinching the championship. And I'm sure, once they clinch constructors, I mean, do they still decide to go and win, or do they just decide to, really like throw things out the window and experiment, or just not try or whatever? And maybe somebody else can win. I don't know. But
They should go and
yeah.
let Sergio Perez win to prove that it isn't just made for Max Verstappen, and let him lock up second in the Drivers' Championship.
Oh yeah,
But they won't,
that's true. Well, I mean, I'm
because,
talking about more Verstappen at more or
yeah,
less.
I hear you on that.
Yeah.
I
Um,
think he's not going to lose the rest of the year, but I've been
no,
saying that for a while anyway.
no. So we'll see. But interesting driving tactic on I guess the final lap of the race with Leclerc and Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez. Leclerc overdrove the final chicane there, and that allowed Sergio Perez to close in on him and pass him for second to get the 1-2. But uh, yeah, I mean Leclerc, that was a little bit disappointing to see that type of driving technique from him. Thought maybe he would be able to hold him off there, but of course he didn't, and loses second place. But just thought, personally, just thought Leclerc had a little bit better technique in him than that. But he overdrives the part of the final chicane there. I mean the rest of the field. I mean, shockingly, Latifi gets points. He's one guy I think we never know if he'd ever get points ever, and he gets a couple of points here. George Russell finished lower than his teammate for once. Lewis getting a top 5 and George getting an 8th. So, um, that was interesting. Fernando Alonso, 7th place, and I think he had the fastest car in practice at one point. So, I mean, hey, at least they still have speed. He still has pace. We'll see if that transfers over to Aston Martin next year, and how much ever longer he lasts in Formula One. Um, Pierre Gasly, of course, that incident, which we talked about safety all year, and this, and NASCAR, and another example of safety being an issue, and being in the heavy downpour with Gasly, trying to go around the track, and I guess not being aware or not being made aware of the uh, safety truck next to the track, and which is always pretty dangerous, especially in conditions that they're in, and anything can go wrong and slam into the safety truck there and cause a bigger incident that completely unnecessary could happen, almost like an ARCA race from the 1980s where things like that could have happened, or anything like that. But yeah, and of course ended up finishing the last car to finish the race there. So, not the way you wanted to have his weekend, especially after they made the announcement that he'd be going to Alpine next year. So, not the way you wanted to have that race, but nonetheless, that's how it happened. But yeah, not really too much to take away. Just heavy rain for this racetrack, and um, almost like a throwback in a way with the heavy rain to some older days in Formula One, where things like this were safety and things were a lot more of a question in the 70s and stuff. But at the same time, um, not the racing we'd like to see in Formula One. But now Verstappen is champion, so don't have to really talk about that anymore since he's the champion now. So I guess now from here on out it's a victory tour, and I guess Verstappen has a chance to continue to add to his win total that he already has so far this year.
He has, and there was an interesting thing I saw on Twitter earlier where he is right now tied with his butt buddy Fred Alonso, 32 Formula One wins and 2 world championships. Now, Fred Alonso actually earned his world championships. As much as he's an asshole, he beat Michael Schumacher both of those years for those world championships. He earned them, and then started setting fire to his career, doing a Kanye West or Antonio Brown to his career, even though he's still talented and he's still been able to be employed, unlike both of those dipshits, racist, freaking imbecilic, garbage, garbage dumpsters of life that they are. Like Brett Favre, we'll add him in because he's white trash, just to go and balance it out a little bit. But yeah, Verstappen winning in a questionable way, coming up with a points format where he somehow or another gets full points, even though they only ran 28 laps of a race that was supposed to go, I think, 70 something or whatever the fuck it is. Only in Formula One in today's age with an American company running it. Verstappen goes and wins, gets a championship. He was going to win the championship anyway, so it's now the real battle is for second in the drivers' championship. It's only a point between Checo and Leclerc. Fourth in the drivers' championship is really close between George Russell and Carlos Sainz. Russell didn't get much points, but he's 5 points ahead of Carlos Sainz right now. Hasn't won a race this year. The top 3 have. Sainz has. Lewis, of course, hasn't. So only 4 drivers have won this year. They're talking about it last week where some of the calls by the FIA with the red flags and whatever have prevented opportunities for smaller teams to win. might have also prevented Mercedes, even though their car's a piece of shit. Lewis getting a fifth place finish on Sunday was pretty strong. That's kind of where he's been most of the year. We'll see what happens. He loves Austin. It's one of his best racetracks. Can he pull one out of his ass? Can Mercedes put something on the table? They're actually following the cost cap, unlike Red Bull. So we'll see what they can do there. When it comes to the cost cap breach, I don't think anything of great significance is going to happen. If they really want to go and do something to Red Bull, they should take away, they should disqualify him from constructors for both this year and last year, and then also take away wind tunnel time and take away their take away part of their cap for next year, because I think they keep on reducing it over time. That would be the way to go, and really put some teeth into any type of breach. I mean, a la NASCAR. NASCAR doesn't throw the book at big teams; they throw the book at small teams. So my feeling is they're going to throw the book. They fined Williams for a small breach or whatever, like a paperwork issue. I think they're going to throw a bigger penalty at Aston Martin than they are at Red Bull, because Red Bull is in the back pockets of FIA the same way as Ferrari is. So that's kind of what's going to happen there, and won't surprise me one way or the other. That's why Formula One now has credibility issues the same way as NASCAR does. But we will see what happens with that. We will preview the U.S. Grand Prix next week on the GSP. Yeah, I mean, the points, I talked about the points, the constructors right now. Red Bull is, what is it, 46, 146, 165. They're 165 points ahead of Ferrari in constructors. Ferrari right now is 67 points ahead of Mercedes in second. So essentially the top three are set. Alpine is 13 points out of McLaren for fourth. Alfa Romeo is 7 points out of Aston Martin. Haas and AlphaTauri are tied for eighth. And Williams actually might get there might be a chance they get to double digits in points, but they're going to finish last in the constructors for sure. Haas and AlphaTauri with like a miracle performance could get themselves in the mix for sixth or seventh, but it would be asking a lot, especially considering Pierre Gasly's leaving the team. Haas with Mick Schumacher, Gunther Steiner's basically told him to go fuck himself. So that means neither team has two drivers in that sense, and Yuki Tsunoda crashes every other week. Aston Martin, even though Lance Stroll is one of their drivers, Sebastian Vettel seems a little more motivated to finish out his Formula One career with a bang, and Alfa Romeo hasn't been bringing as many upgrades, so something we will see for sure. Bathurst 1000, we'll get into the GSP roundup now. Bathurst 1000, the great race. Big deal. There was a lot of rain this weekend, but the race itself, race day, was generally dry, though the grass was saturated and caused a lot of issues early in the day. But Shane Van Gisbergen and Garth Tander gets the victory. It's, I think, 2 consecutive wins for Shane Van Gisbergen. 2 out of the last 3 years where Shane Van Gisbergen has won this race. Defending race winner Chaz Mostert with former DJR driver Fabian Coulthard. So that is an elite combo. Finishes like just a little over a second behind in second, and Cam Waters, James Moffitt finished third after starting on pole in the Monster Energy Ford. Brody Kostecki ran over James Moffitt early in the race and didn't get penalized. They end up finishing fourth. And Brock Feeney, Jamie Winchcup finishes fifth. So big day for his Triple Eight organization, getting 3 cars in the top 10, 2 in the top 5. The legend Craig Lowndes with young Declan Frazier finishes 8th. So 3 Triple Eight cars finish in the top 8, 2 in the top 5. Was it Anton De Pasquale, Tony D'Alberto for DJR finishes 7th. Bryce Fullwood, Dean Fiore for Walkinshaw Andretti United finishes 9th. I have to go and get into the teams. I'm curious as to he's actually driving for Brad Jones now. Interesting. Matt Caltex, Young Stars 55. Tickford. So they separated their team. So Premier. Wow. I'm learning things as I go. So the Walkinshaw, so the 2 and the 25. So the Walkinshaw Andretti United team, I thought Bryce Fullwood was part of the Walkinshaw Andretti United team. That's my mistake. The 2 and the 25. So the 2 car, which is Nick Percat and Warren Luff, they had issues going up the mountain straight and wheel hopped and crashed there. So there goes that. Will Brown, Jack Perkins, and the other Erebus Boost Mobile car finished 10th. The Boost Mobile 51 with Greg Murphy, 4-time winner of the Great Race, and Richie Stanaway finished 11th. So credit to them. It was an interesting race. There was a huge wreck early in the deal, which saw Zane Goddard do a terrible re-entry and take out the Heimgartner Dale Wood car, David Reynolds, Matt Campbell car, and then I think also the Jack Smith, Jackson Evans car, Thomas Randall, Zach Best in the number 55 Castrol Mustang got eliminated on a first lap, just after the first turn incident going up the mountain straight. The Davison brothers in the 17 car running up front ended up parking late, but they had multiple issues. They got robbed out of what could have been a much better finish there. And so there is that. In terms of the championship standings, Shane Van Gisbergen has essentially locked up the title. It's going to take essentially a miracle. There's only 2 races to go. He is 550 points, 560 points ahead. And I think 600 is the most you can get, or 300 in each race. So 600 is the absolute maximum you can get the next 2 weekends. The fact that Shane Van Gisbergen, after 19 race victories this year, would go and lose the championship would be something. Anton De Pasquale had a rough weekend. Cam Waters is in second. Anton De Pasquale is third. It's a close battle between him and Chaz Mostert. It's only 25 points. Will Davison is in 5th. So we will see what happens. We will preview the Gold Coast 500 at Surfers Paradise in a few weeks' time. The World Superbikes at Portugal, we will get into that next. That saw Toprak Raskat Lioku go and get victories in the first two races of the weekend, but Alvaro Bautista sneaks the victory over Toprak in race 2. Johnny Ray finishes 3rd. Gerloff finished 9th in that race 2. Gerloff finished 10th in race 1. Super Pole race. Struggled, had issues. Jake Gagne made his World Superbike. Gerloff fell out of the race. There you go. So Jake Gagne made his World Superbike debut this weekend. The Moto America champion 2 years running. Finished 16th in the Super Pole race. 19th in race 1. And in race 2, Gagne scored a point. So credit to him scoring a point on debut. Might be where he'll be next year, which would be something. Add another American on the grid. But we will see what happens with that. Bautista is 56 points ahead of Toprak Raskat Lioku. Johnny Ray is 34. Trying to do this math off the top of my head. It's not great. 82 points ahead of Bautista's ahead of 82 over Johnny Ray. That's really the battle here with 3 rounds left. So 9 total races within those 3 rounds. Michael Ruben Rinaldi has a good, decent lead, 36-point lead on Andrea Locatelli. Locatelli, Lowe's, Bassini are all close together, 9 points there. Gerloff, decent weekend, but still 10 points behind Javi Vieje for 10th in the championship. He's 3 points out of his future teammate Loris Baz on the BMW there, but Gerloff is the I think the 3rd Yamaha rider, best Yamaha rider, because Locatelli's the 2nd rider. So he's the 3rd best Yamaha guy. Roberto Tamburini, whoever the fuck he is, he's 15th in the championship. Trying to go through here. Jake Gagne, after scoring a point, is 29th. He's ahead of 9 riders in the championship. So we will see if he's going to run these next 3 rounds. They'll be at Portugal a couple weeks' time, and I'm not sure what that is. What flag that is for that race. So that'll be Indonesia, and then Phillip Island back to back to end the season. So we will get into that for World Superbikes here as we go along. BTCC runs their season finale at Brands Hatch GP circuit. Tom Ingram qualifies on pole over Rory Butcher and Ash Sutton, the defending champion. In race 1, Tom Ingram gets the victory over Rory Butcher and Jake Hill. Ash Sutton 4th, took Colin Turkington 5th. Tom Ingram wins race 2 over Jake Hill, Colin Turkington, Rory Butcher, Ash Sutton. And in race 3, Daniel Lloyd wins in a Hyundai. Josh Cook in the independent Honda Civic. Second, Roy Butcher third, Ash Sutton fourth, Tom Ingram fifth. Tom Ingram becomes a British touring car champion for the first time by 12 points over Ash Sutton, 13 over Jake Hill. Colin Turkington falls short of another, would have been a historic. I think he would have been a three-time, or he's a four-time champion. So he's tied with. I was looking at Aiden Millward's videos earlier. I'm forgetting Andy Rouse. He's tied with Andy Rouse for all-time British Touring Car Championships at 4. So it would be huge if he could go and break that record. He'd be in that, that range, kind of the Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt kind of deal. If he can go and win 5 championships, all-time record. Finishes, what is it? 46 points out of the championship. Roy Butcher finishes 5th. Josh Cook 6th. Multiple champion Gordon Shedden finishes 7th in the championship. Retirement of Jason Plato, who's won more races than anybody in the history of the BTCC, so credit to him, one of the big characters in the history of the British Touring Car Championship. Kind of is funny how Aiden Millward talks about it, and he says he's one of the last guys that was from the heyday, and I remember Jason Plato from when he drove for the Williams Renault team when he first came into British Touring Car Championship, and then when they showed the races on Speed and his battle with Yvonne Muller and how much he hated him, and it was crazy, and he was a character. He's kind of like, he was the Paul Tracy of the British Touring Car Championship, except he was a little more successful. I'm probably sure he's a Tory, and he probably found that idiot stick douchebag they had as their prime minister to be good, but that's beside the point. Credit to him on his career, from where it came from and what he ended up doing with it. In regards to, I wanted to mention this W Series, they make an announcement that they're not going to run the rest of the series due to funding issues, which sees Jamie Chadwick become a 3-time champion of the series. It's an unfortunate end to who knows what's going to happen. I have a hard time believing the W Series will survive when they're not able to run the last 3 races. They're stating that they had 3 races to go, but they weren't gonna go and make it. 11 wins, 10 poles, 18 podiums across 3 seasons. And she's only gotten like a couple of F3 tests or whatever, which is kind of crazy to me. It's something, when it comes to women in motorsports, it's been harder for women in most series to kind of get a chance, especially in circuit racing and NHRA. They've done pretty well. I think you can look at other types of motorsports like motorcycle racing, maybe, and off-road racing, where they've been a little bit better off, but rallying, maybe, Michelle Mouton being a great example of that. But sports cars, they're a little more, there's a lot more options there. But in open wheel racing, circuit racing, like IndyCar, Formula One, those kind of cars, and NASCAR, Women drivers have definitely not had the opportunities. Maybe Jamie Chadwick will get that shot. Kelsey gets another touchdown conveniently. Lovely. Yeah, he has Kelsey. Is that your? Does
Yeah,
does Joe
Joe
have?
has Kelsey, so damn it, man. Derek Carr got
All right.
ah
He threw a pick. Did Derek Carr throw a
no, he
pick?
didn't throw a pick, but well, Darren Waller is out of the game, and Derek Carr is struggling.
Throwing medicine balls like Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. Um.
Well, there's a
I'm
flag
done.
on the play here, so hold on a minute.
So yeah. So my W series thing, I feel bad for the rest of those ladies that were relying on this series with the possibility of getting an opportunity later on. Uh, it's a shame, honestly, to see that, but the cars weren't that good. It didn't seem like there was a great commitment in a lot of ways. So who knows? We'll see what happens with a lot of those ladies. I think they should go touring cars or sports cars, uh, the options to get to Formula One. I mean, when you look at Tatiana Calderon, she has all that Colombian money and she sucks. She's not going to go anywhere. I mean, AJ Foyt's already essentially got 2 ride buyers to drive for him next year. They're waiting on the third car. We'll see what happens with that because they're going to keep. What's his name? I'm forgetting his name. The guy who drives a 4 car and sucks in the Indy cars, and then but he's good on Twitter. And then Root Beer Floathead
Dalton
got
Kellett.
announced as a driver. Yeah, Dalton Kellett, and then Root Beer Floathead is thank you, and then Root Beer Floathead's going to be the driver of the 14 car. So Paul Tracy's going to be whacking off at every race when he sees that 14 car because that's his butt buddy. Yeah, so I mean, AJ Foyt, if instead of Tony Stewart announcing an NFT, if he had actually bought AJ Foyt Racing, that would have been a real announcement. And then maybe we wouldn't have had Root Beer Floathead in the 14 car. There might have been, I don't know, Linus Lundqvist, perhaps, or somebody has talent. That would have been a novel concept. MotoGP will be racing at Phillip Island for the first time in a few years. A 2 point battle between Fabio Quartararo, the defending world champion, and Pecco Bagnaia, who's been on a great run since. I'm trying to see. Yeah, since the first Spanish round of the year. As long as he has finished a race, he has finished no worse than third, and he has won 6 times. 6 wins, 1 second, and a third. And at that same time, Fabio Quartararo has 3 seconds, 2 wins, a fourth and a fifth, 2 DNFs across Bagnaia's 4, but that's the battle. Alex Espargaro is still in this battle. Only 1 non-point score the whole year. 20 points out. Enea Bastianini is 29 points out. And Jack Miller's 30 out. So with 3 rounds to go, Jack Miller going home for the first time on a Ducati factory ride. Is one time he'll be on it before he goes to KTM, coming off of a win and a second the last 2 races. So he has a backdoor chance at the World Championship. Binder and Zarco, 6th and 7th. Oliveira, Jorge Martin, Maverick Vinales round out the top 10. Interesting how that whole thing will work out. Ducati's going to win teams. Ducati's going to win constructors. So not as much intrigue there. In Moto 2, the standings going into this weekend's race, Augusto Fernandez is only up by a point on Ayagura, and Aaron Canet is 50 points back in third. That's really the championship there. Celestino Vietti and Tony Arbolino, fourth and fifth. They're separated by 5 points. Joe Roberts is tied with Jake Dixon for sixth. They are only 2 points out of Pedro Acosta. Chantra and Alonso Lopez round out the top 10. Cameron Beaubier is coming back to America next year. What he's going to be doing or what he's going to be riding is to be determined. I kind of figure he's going to go back on a Yamaha because Jake Gagne isn't going to be here. Or he could go to Ducati because the Warhorse Ducati team probably needs a replacement. To be determined. He's 15th in the championship. Sean Dillon Kelly scored in the last round. He's 26th. So if he can go and score, 3 more points, he can gain 3 spots. If he can gain 7 points, he could gain 4 spots. So that would be huge for him in his rookie year. Something to be seen. They'll be running this weekend at Australia, and then they'll be running in Malaysia next week. And we'll talk about that on the GSP for episode 139. So, Josh, I've been talking for a while. I'll give you the opening to talk about your fantasy football, but also your actual team. I know you have some feels going on with Trevor Lawrence, the consensus number 1 overall pick. Can't miss. You have a new coach in Doug Peterson, an offense that almost made Carson Wentz an MVP, who Ron Rivera basically ran over with a bus earlier today on the press conference. Alex Smith got really mad about that, amongst other people. But Trevor Lawrence looks pretty ordinary in the red zone as Derek Carr gets sacked again. In tight situations, you've mentioned it on social media. You've also mentioned it on here. But your team is in the mix. I mean, that division is still in play. But things have to turn around for your guy. Your franchise quarterback has to play like the guy that was at Clemson and not whatever the hell he's become now if they're going to win this division this year, because your defense is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here. I mean, first, the fantasy. This is going to be a close one, but, I mean, made a mistake cutting Tyler Higbee and keeping, keeping Darren Waller. That has turned out to be a big mistake there. But whatever, we'll roll through it. Gonna have to probably stream the tight ends, for the rest of the season and work the waiver wire based on the matchup. That's probably the strategy here for the rest of the way. And maybe you need to trade for a quarterback. I don't know. We'll see. But
you got 2 available.
Yeah.
3 available, depending.
Trades or QBs on the waiver wire?
QBs. No,
Yeah.
I'm saying I have 3. Yeah, I have people available. We can go and sound out a trade right now, depending on.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I have to consult some other people here, outside influence, to make sure I'm making the right move.
I do that too. So that's part of why we're all so competitive in this league. It's how these trades seem to happen in Fall Brawl. So completely understand.
Yeah, and I mean, I might have to call my brother and ask for some legal advice here. Not real legal advice, but fantasy advice. because I feel like he has a better sense of trade value than I do. But
We need to meet this brother. I didn't. Yeah.
no,
How
no.
much
I just have
ever?
to. No, I don't know. He's I ask him for advice every now and then on starting, and he's like, yeah, you need to do this, this, and this. I mean, he's in college right now, so he has time to look
So
at
he's a
this.
younger. Oh, so
Yeah,
he's a younger kid. Okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
he's just drinking. He's drinking bad beer, and he's going to where? So we're.
UF.
What, okay, yeah. So yeah, he's getting diseases, whatever. God bless him. Um, he's a good kid,
Yeah,
probably raised well, just like you are, and your parents did a great job. But he's tying one on, so God bless him.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah, no, I don't know. We'll see. But no, he has good sense of it. But so maybe I might have to ask about possible trades, or I'll just look at it myself and look at the data here and see, use my engineering brain to figure it out. So
it's all about the data.
it's all about the data. That's right. But so there's that, and I'm currently losing. But it's fourth quarter. Maybe Derek Carr can come up with a touchdown or two and bring it back in. But uh, can't afford any more touchdowns from Travis Kelsey tonight. That's for sure. Second 21 for the Raiders right now. You're probably ahead. But anyways, no, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, like I said, I mean, they've had opportunities to go win the game where they needed a touchdown or to tie the game. They've had 6 opportunities now, and he's not come up in any of them. Um, he's not been able to drive down the field and score a touchdown to either win or tie the game. And you can excuse the rookie or maybe just because like inexperienced, Urban Meyer coaching and stuff like that, but. You look for that improvement in the second year, and it just hasn't happened yet. And you know, people talk about, yeah, he's got the tools and everything. And I mean, I don't know what they mean by generational now, because I mean, if this guy is generational, what the hell does that make Deshaun Watson, excluding the, crying baby yoga pose for a massage thing, because Deshaun Watson was lighting it up. I mean, maybe not exactly, but, he had a lot more highlights in his rookie year, first, 7 games before he tore his ACL than whatever. Oh my Wow, that was almost a big touchdown there from Carr, but whatever. Deshaun Watson is, because I'm saying him because he came out of Clemson also, and this almost the same system with Dabo Sweeney, right? But um, lights it up his first year and had way more highlights than Trevor Lawrence ever did in his first year. And yeah, different teams, different stages and everything. He had D Hop, and Trevor Lawrence had Urban Meyer and all the mess and that everything. But the point is what you're able to do with what you have. And I mean, he did a lot, but he's still leaving a lot to be desired. So, um, had trouble reading cover two defense, and had issues diagnosing that and throwing into the wrong areas of cover two, and versus taking the 27-yard pass when all you need is a 5-yard check down and stuff. And then on top of this, you have Doug Peterson, pass heavy philosophy, and failing to really understand the situation of the game. You have a tie game and they go away from the run when you still have the opportunity to control the game. And now the Jaguars have had trouble rushing up the middle. I've noticed this. They seem to not do as well. I mean, James Robinson has good vision, but they seem to not do as well running up the middle as they did in the past. And it's probably because they have a rookie center and a left guard that is well undersized, so they just dislocated his knee this week. So maybe they'll get a different guy in there, but and they have a right guard that is an all-star, and right tackle, left tackle, decent or solid at least. But they got away from running the ball again this week when Travis Etienne had some pretty good runs in the first half and didn't really touch the ball that much in the second half. And yeah, I mean the splits were even up until maybe the fourth quarter as far as pass versus run call, but it just feels like, I don't know, watching the game, like in the situation, where they called for runs versus pass, they probably could have ran it rather than pass, or they called the wrong type of run play. 4th and 1, they're in shotgun and call a read option and hand off to James Robinson, and Robinson gets stuffed. And by the way, Trevor Lawrence had an opportunity to pull it back and take the ball and run for a first down on there. And then, 2nd and 1 where he threw the pick, had an opportunity to just all he had to do is lunge for the first down and just take the first down and move on, and went and threw the pick. So those are situational football awareness. That's what has lacking for Trevor Lawrence so far, and just needing to just take the better setup to set you up for the next down. That's what it's all about. So that's kind of then the point that I've been trying to make, and I guess people finally caught on to it because I had like a tweet that had like 95 likes. That's probably the most likes I've ever had on a Twitter. I'm not really much for tweeting. I just kind of read passively and agree or like whatever, retweet whatever people saying. But I had been trying to drive home this point because I feel like it's an important point, and people, not only me but other people, beginning to pick up on this. So we'll see. They go to Indianapolis, who a month ago, or well, almost a month ago, were they beat the shit out of them, and now they go to Indianapolis like potentially the season being on the line, because they'll fall to a 2-4 record, and it'll get harder to make the playoffs after that, and to potentially win the division or make it into the playoffs as a wild card or something like that. So, they dominated the Colts at home, and now they're on the road, and we'll see if it changes inside the Indianapolis stadium or not. But you got that, and the defense has been playing lights out. They played statistically well enough to win the game, even if they may have missed some tackles running the ball, but that tends to happen as the game gets tighter, and offense continuing to fail you, and you got to continue to try to make something happen on defense, and you're getting closer and closer to the end of the game. You start to make mistakes or get tired and stuff, and the game doesn't favor you as much. You're not in as you don't have as much leverage. So this is how it is. But Trevor's still got to figure it out, and starting to doubt him, I guess. But we'll see. Some film people on Twitter talking about it today, and I think Nate Tice, he's a good film guy, but pointed out some good plays where he was able to diagnose cover two correctly, but still just about the situational awareness and stuff. And another point here, Blake Bortles retired last week. Shout out to the boat. I feel like Blake Bortles in certain situations probably like would have done better than Trevor Lawrence, and I feel like he probably made some plays in his rookie year and his career that Trevor, who's undoubtedly a better prospect than Bortles ever was, and hasn't never really showed to be, but there are plays that Bortles I feel like probably made during his 4 or 5 years here in Jacksonville than Trevor Lawrence has so far. So we'll see. And I feel like Blake was a more likable guy than Trevor Lawrence. Also, Trevor, boring guy, not really a whole lot of personality, I feel like. And it's different.
So is the William Byron of quarterbacks? Is that what you're saying?
He might be. Maybe the Chase Elliott.
William Clyde Elliott. Yeah.
I would say the Chase Elliott, because Chase, he's good. Chase is, or at least we'll just assume for now, kind of good or good. Chase, very humble, very business personality, not a whole lot of goofball, or not. He's definitely not like Ryan Blaney or anything like that, or anybody else like that. So I think Ryan Blaney's probably the goofball or whatever of the Cup Series, and I feel like Blake Bortles definitely had a lot of one-liners, and you wanted to root for him because he was had that legend personality, and Gardner Minshew also had that type of personality also, even more of a legend than in some ways than Blake Bortles. But Trevor Lawrence, I'm not saying he needs to go out and buy everybody around and be that guy like Bortles or Minshew was, but got to go out there and make plays, and that's all. That's what matters in the end. And in key situations so far this season, hasn't been able to pull through all the time. It's great that they blew out the Colts, blew out the Chargers, and they were able to do it in convincing fashion. But then when the game's on the line, like it was in Washington, like it was in Philadelphia, and like it was in this game, gotta pull through. And it's easy. It's easy to win when you're up like this. It's easy to play, but when you have the leverage, but when you don't have the leverage, that's what we find out what kind of player you really are. And so the losing moments matter more to me because you have an opportunity to go out and potentially win the game and haven't been able to quite do that yet. So that's what I'm concerned about right now. And we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks. If they improve, if he improved his play, and moving forward. So we'll see. But the Jaguars, they go to the Colts, and then they go to the Giants. Get some work people. I have a lot of people in my work are New York fans. Whenever a New York team goes to Florida to play, they go to that particular stadium to go watch that New York team. And the Giants coming to New York or coming to Jacksonville in 2 weeks from now. Not sure yet if I'm gonna go to that. I mean, it would be nice to go shit talk in front of a bunch of New Yorkers on the Giants. But at the same time, I feel less confident
They're a
about
good
doing that
team.
than I did
They
2 weeks
are a
ago.
good team. After they go to London and beat Aaron with what's his name,
With
Daniel
Daniel
Jones
Jones. And well, I mean,
hobbling around.
Saquon was the one that won that game. I think I'm not
Oh
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's the one that won. Yeah, he made one cut, and I was saying it to another Giants fan yesterday. There was the one highlight where he made one cut, and there's maybe one other running back that can make that cut in this league when they're healthy. I think it's CMC. Other than that, there's nobody at the running back position that can make that cut.
yeah, and that's
Um,
fair and everything. But my point is saying that is, I'm I'm a little bit less confident than I was about shit talking, than I was 2 weeks ago. Because two
yeah,
weeks ago, like, all right, we're fucking, gonna be on top of the world here, and now we're at this. And I'm like, I don't know yet. So have that opportunity, and then also that opportunity to go to Homestead. Well, shit talk people from work, or go to Homestead and watch, some
well,
people
go to
run the top.
Homestead.
We'll see.
You should go to
Yeah, I haven't
Homestead
been to
because I think
Homestead.
that's gonna be. I really feel like they tested there. I mean, there's probably going to be tire failures, so it'll make it a little interesting. There'll be more cautions, but I think that's going to be a really good race. I have, for whatever reason, I don't usually look forward to cookie cutter races, but I love
Yeah, I
Homestead.
love
I don't
Homestead
know.
too. It's just the
I
top.
Yeah, it must be because Tony's done so well there. He won 3 times there, and back he won that championship in 11. Dario Franchitti won 2 IndyCar titles there. I don't know. I just have a good vibe with Homestead. Uh, it's essentially what Atlanta should have been. It's what Atlanta used to be. Um, so take that for what it is, except you have progressive banking. Um, Atlanta was that before, and it was a great racetrack for many years, and you had to really make it through there. But Homestead's a tough racetrack, and now it's a 3 groove racetrack. But the High Lines is one that works, and the guys that can really run up there, I think shifting is going to play a role. But we'll get in that
We'll get in
for
that next
sure.
week. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
um,
I mean, for me, real quick, like, the Homestead, Dale Jr. had a couple of good runs at towards the end of, or mid to end of his career at Homestead, and one of the first people I feel like I saw that really figured out how to run the top, um, and had a couple of opportunities where he had a good car in his career, and at Homestead, never won there, but he was one of the first guys I feel like I remember seeing that figured out how to run the top there, and that's what I like about Homestead. You can really run right up next to the wall, and Larson has figured out how to really run up like that, and I'm very curious to see how's the top gonna handle with this new car, if it's going to go back to what it was pre the 2019 era in NASCAR, before they had the big spoiler and everything. So, we'll see. But yeah, Homestead versus the Jags might be leaning towards Homestead. So we'll see.
Yeah, I would go to the race. It's even though NASCAR is what it is, you have many weeks to go
Yeah.
with the football, and that division is somewhat wide open. But we have tickets to that, so we'll promote it. I'll leave you to do that for Kaon and all the people there. But for me, the Niners win. Win big, but lose Nick Bosa to a groin injury, lose Emmanuel Mosley to an ACL after getting a pick six. There's a couple other injuries. Jimmy Ward just came back from a hamstring, injures his hand. Issues with the field surface at whatever the fuck they call that stadium now. It used to be Ericsson Stadium in Charlotte. They put down field turf. It's not the first time the Niners have been caught out by bad field turf, losing players. At least we didn't lose Bosa for the year. The last time they played on bad field turf, which was at MetLife, and lost him and Solomon Thomas in like a span of like 3 plays. But they won. Jimmy G did what he had to do. And there were some drops. Wasn't the most amazing offensive performance, but the reality of the world is they did the job. Running backs, Tevin Coleman, coming from his couch, going and beating one of his former division rivals when he was on the Atlanta Falcons. So it's going to be a good couple of weeks for him in that sense. Him and Jeff Wilson building a 1-2 combo at the running back position. Wide receiver Jawan Jennings getting back into the mix as the third wide receiver, as that safety valve, which is huge for the Niners. They need that. They can use the speed. They do have Danny Gray, but I don't think Kyle Shanahan knows how to use them. Same way as he doesn't know how to use Trey Lance. But and then this week against Atlanta is kind of a trap because they're going to be playing Kansas City, who just scored another touchdown with fucking Travis Kelce. That is retarded. Are you kidding me? He's thrown 4 fucking touchdowns to that asshole. Come on, man. Like it's like after 2 touchdowns, like literally mug him. I mean, come on, man. They gave him a free release on that ball. They gave him a free release on the 1.
Yep. Well, here's another thing about the Chiefs. So when they're in short yardage, if it's like a 4th and goal type of situation, I don't know. I didn't see what down yard to go this was, but 4th and goal, they're never gonna have Mahomes do a QB sneak because he got a knee injury. I guess a couple years ago, if you remember, and everything. Someone mentioned that to me today, and that's an interesting situation and something I have to look out for. Now what the fuck? They're going for 2. Well, I guess it makes sense. Put the game out of reach for the Raiders here. But well, you're gonna see it, and yeah, okay, knock that shit down. So can't believe I'm cheering for the Raiders, but it's only because of fantasy purposes to give him more opportunity.
Oh, good job on Max Crosby for whoever has him the IDPs getting a pass deflection on
does that count on a 2-pointer?
Pass deflection's a pass deflection.
Okay, I guess that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the Raiders are down 7 now. Travis Kelce is proving why I don't put tight ends. That's why I don't want tight ends in fantasy because it's essentially Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and then everybody else. That's why I didn't want to have tight ends in fantasy. I Pat Fryermuth as my tight end. He's concussed on a team that's going nowhere. I mean, you talked about how you did what you did with your tight ends. That's why I didn't want tight ends. I'd rather have another flex position. I think that's better. In the end, you can have a QWRT. I could add a QWRT. I could add, it would be a WRT flex. So if you want to go and pick Travis Kelce, God bless you. I can go and pick whoever, but fucking
You should
can't
have done a
stand.
QWRT, and then that would get really interesting. We have a
Well, I
triple
already
quarterback
have that.
league.
Yeah. If we do a triple quarterback
We might
league,
not have
then
enough quarterbacks.
we don't. There aren't enough quarterbacks. Believe me. I'm in a. Yeah, I mean, you see the freaking waiver wire in our league. For fuck's sake, I'll just go on there now. But I'm gonna lose this week. I'm third in the league, and I'm losing the second place team. The quarterbacks that are on the waiver wire right now are pretty motley. Essentially, it's Carson Wentz, who just got buried by his coach, Marcus Mariota, Matt Ryan, Davis Mills, Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, who has a high ankle and sucks, Cooper Rush, who's mediocre, Flacco, who probably is the better quarterback for the Jets, honestly, but they're not going to play him. Taysom Hill's not a quarterback. Mitch Trubisky, who, depending on how bad the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line blocks, might still have a chance to get back in. Mac Jones is having injury issues. New Orleans has injury issues at the quarterback position. Bailey Zappi for New England won because what's it called? I'm forgetting what the hell the guy's name is for the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff is completely inept when he plays Bill Belichick defenses. We saw that in the Super Bowl a few years ago, and it happened again on Sunday against the Patriots for his Detroit Lions. Granted, his number one wide receiver wasn't healthy. His number one running back was out, but they didn't do jack shit. So there is that. Okay. Yeah, I mean, my fantasy teams are having a week this week. I'm going to lose in my league. I have to go and bring up the stat tracker to confirm, but I mean, I already know I'm down. I'm down 21 points. Wilson is going to win the week. He's got 254 points so far. Professor J is going to finish second overall. He's going to have the biggest win of the week. I'm going to fall from third to fifth. There are, as it stands, Josh, you'd be behind me in overall standings. Professor J would go to 5-0. His Buffalo Bills are running good too. I'm losing in my other Yahoo league, and I'll fall to 9th to 2-3. The other team I was playing was also 2-2, so you're going to go to 3-2. So that sucks. He has, and the irony is Darren Waller. He has Darren Waller, and Darren Waller got knocked out without ever getting a play. T. Higgins I had in, and T. Higgins didn't do shit. So if I had actually played Chris Olave, that's what it is. If I had literally played Chris Olave, I would have won. Okay. That's whatever. I can't really do anything about that. I'm still fifth in my league. It's still a playoff spot. I have a 2-game lead on. I have a 2-game lead on Luke and Manny and Vic. I have a 3-game lead Wilson gets up to third, so now he's got a lot of energy going into this next matchup. I think I'm playing Wilson next week, which sucks. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Didn't Professor
um,
J like start out like 0-10 or something like that last year, and now
last
he's 5 and
yeah,
0?
well, Professor J, because he's one of my close friends, to be fair, said he wanted to draft Josh Allen number 1 last year, as a Buffalo Bills fan, and he felt like that what happened last year was going to happen. And I kind of talked him out of it. He went for CMC and it went to hell. I got CMC in my other league and I still faded it and I ended up I got CMC and I think I made the playoffs in that league even after losing him, but yeah, so I mean it's brutal. He wanted to pick Josh Allen last year number 1. Him picking Josh Allen number 1 this year, at least you, Vic, Wilson, so at least 4 people in the league knew that he was going to do that, and it set off a kind of a quarterback firestorm, which left me with what I have
And what
at
I have.
quarterback. So we'll see what happens. I'm not going to have any waiver budget left. I think I'm going to have to trade. I'm going to have to trade for waiver budget because there are other people that don't even use the waiver budget. So I'll trade you for like $50 a waiver budget, and I'll just like Venmo you. I don't know what the value of waiver budget is relative to actual money. I mean, I know the American dollar doesn't have very much value in most places.
Yeah,
You might
right
have
now.
to, yeah, because I've been using waiver budget to try to make my team better. And did he just throw a tutty? Yeah, he did throw a tutty to
To
fucking
Devontae.
Devontae Adams. Okay.
Not
Oh,
bad.
so Derek Carr's trying to stay in this game. Got to give him credit, man.
Okay, yeah, I mean, not saying, he ain't bad, but it's like the value of a, QB1 versus, he's definitely not a QB1. That's the problem.
Yeah, he's a QB2, but he's got a heart, and he's always had that heart. And now he's got his BFF as his number 1 receiver, which you could tell the difference now when Aaron had Devontae Adams, and now he doesn't have him no more. You
Now they're going
better.
for, wow, Josh McDaniels going for 2 here. That's a very interesting call.
They're calling it. They didn't make a call. They're saying he was short. They're not doing anything.
That's short.
Oh man, that's not good. He fell early. Oh, he fell early. He should have went and broken outside. There was nothing there.
I don't know. That's where you call goal line formation, like on the 2-yard line. Like, what's up
They
with this
did it out of a
shotgun running
shotgun,
shit?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, what's up with this shot? Come on, under center. Hand it off under center. Call power. It works every time. At least in Madden.
No, at least, yeah. Well, yeah, in Madden for sure, but yeah, at least run. At least have power with a fullback and go and have an option. And worst case, you can go and do a naked bootleg. Ode to Doug Flutie or whatever. Run the naked bootleg. He can do that. Oh man. So whatever. We'll see what happens with that. Travis Kelce's probably going to score another touchdown because of that. Yeah, the Niners have a game against Atlanta this weekend. I'm pretty sure a lot of the key players that are hurt are not going to be playing. E-Man's out for the year, unfortunately, because of the shitty turf. Kind of like cheap ass parts. Shitty turf instead of having grass. When all these owners are billionaires, you can figure out a way to keep grass at your stadiums. It's a problem across the league for a lot of teams. So, I mean, the fact is, SoFi Stadium doesn't have grass, and it's LA. Like, really? Come on, you should have grass there. Um, I get why MetLife doesn't have it or Philly doesn't have it. I kind of get that, but your owners are billionaires. You can find a way to keep grass in a pod of some sort, and then you go and transport said pod, the grass, to the stadium when it matters. That's what you should do. But it is what it is. We'll see what happens. Niners trying to maintain their lead in the NFC West. They are leading right now. Seattle is a revelation with Geno Smith for sure. I'm going to go scroll down to them. So Niners are 3-2. They're the only team that hasn't lost in division. They're 2-0. They have a 1-game lead on the Rams and 1.5-game lead on both the Cardinals and the Seahawks. They do have a 1-game lead actually on the Seahawks because they beat them. Niners only have given up 61 points so far on defense through 5 games, so that's just a little over 12 points a game, so that's pretty good. NFC is pretty tight. I mean, there's 3 teams that have 4 wins or more in the NFC East. Minnesota Vikings have done it with smoke and mirrors. They've won 3 games in division. That's really why they are 4-1. Green Bay is 3-2, so they're in it, even though things are not looking great. Chicago is pretty terrible, and the Niners somehow or another lost to them. Lions are 1-4, but they're way better than that. Their defense is not that good though. Tampa Bay leads by a half game over, or no, 1 game over the Saints and the Falcons. The fact is, the Falcons should have won yesterday. That bogus passing or roughing the passer call is only something that would go to Tom Brady. Carolina Panthers just fired Matt Rule earlier today. Steve Wilkes, which is typical. They always make the interim coach an African-American coach as a scapegoat to make it look like they're doing diversity. And in the end, they don't ever get the job. Steve Wilkes, and now his second opportunity to be a head coach. Carolina is not that good, but we'll see what happens with that. I mean, you have, 4-3-7 that make it into the playoffs. I mean, right now, Philadelphia would have the bye. Then you'd have Vikings, Tampa, San Fran, and then you'd have Dallas, the Giants, and Green Bay would be the 7 teams that make the playoffs. That's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm looking for Isaiah Pacheco. My Rutgers guy that's on my team. In the AFC, Buffalo is 4-1. Kansas City's gonna more than likely go to 4-1. They're gonna have their big matchup next week in the late window. Baltimore and Tennessee are at 3-2. So those are the next 2 teams. Then you have the Jets and the Dolphins and the Chargers. Yeah. Jets, Dolphins, Chargers are the 7 teams. And Chargers and the Broncos are going to be playing on Monday night, which is going to be a buster. The Sunday night football game is pretty good. I think it's Philly, Dallas on Sunday night next week. Just out of curiosity. So Niners are in the mix right now, so that makes me happy. It's early in the season. We haven't lost everybody, so it's a good thing. Cowboys and the Eagles. At Eagles, Sunday night football for battle for the NFC East division lead. Broncos and Chargers battling for second place in the AFC West on Monday night. 4:25 game is the game of the week next week with the Bills and at the Chiefs in Arrowhead. 4:00 games, there's only two 4:05s. Neither of them are compelling. The 1:00 slate is pretty deep. What is it? You have 8 games in the 1:00 slate. Buccaneers traveling to Pittsburgh. Wow, that's going to be rough. Giants hosting the Ravens. That's an interesting one. Dolphins hosting the Vikings. Jets going to Green Bay. Okay. That's something. Niners are playing in the 1:00 window. Second week in the East Coast. Playing the Falcons, so I'm probably going to have to go to the V to watch that. The Thursday night game, do yourself a favor, don't watch that unless you're a fan of the Washington Generals or the Chicago Bears. That game is probably going to be terrible. We'll get into what's going on with fantasy and our real teams next week. Let's get into Vegas, Josh. First, Xfinity, the Alsco Uniforms 302. 38 cars in the starting lineup. Nobody misses the show. Parker Retzlaff will be driving the 02 for our motorsports. Last week was driven by Sage Karam, and they were having a good run. He ran into a couple people. Sheldon Creed, it's a home game for him. Bailey Curry, sponsored by Alka-Seltzer. Matt Mills, a rolling caution. And the 5 for BJ McLeod. Haley Deegan, a rolling blowjob. Will be making her Xfinity debut for SS Greenlight. Trevor Baines driving the 18 car this weekend for Joe Gibbs, and John Hunter in the 26, Kyle Weatherman in the 34, Jeffrey Earnhardt for Emerlin Gase, Josh Williams for DGM, CJ McLaughlin, another rolling caution for the 38 RSS, Raja Caruth coming off of a good season in the ARCA series, driving for Alpha Prime. Stephen Parsons again in the 45 for Alpha Prime. Nick Sanchez, the ARCA Menard Series champion, will be driving the Big Machine Records 48. JJ Ailey 66. Chris Wrong in the 68. Another rolling caution. Mason Massey in the 91, David Starr 08, Matt Jaskell 13, Kyle Sieg 28, and then Garrett Smithley will be running in a BJ McLeod 78 car. So reset in the playoffs, Josh. And what are your thoughts on the race this weekend at Vegas? I'm trying to remember the races right now. They ran earlier this year in Vegas, and Keebler won. Keebler won over Noah Gagson, who won both stages and led the second most laps. Justin Allgaier led the most laps. And Hamrick, Barry, Allgaier, top 5. Castle, Creed, Moffitt, Allmendinger, Paul, and Brandon Jones rounded out top 10. Clements actually finished 11th, and John Hunter Nemechek finished 12th in the Sam Hunt 26. So, and for the Alpha Prime people, the fans of Alpha Prime, Ryan Ellis finished 13th, Kaz Grala 23rd. What is it? Jeffrey Earnhardt's driving for Emerlin Gase. They made the show with Joey Gase and finished 22nd. So there is history from earlier in the year. Keebler ends up winning late, but Gagson, it's a home game for him. He wants to win this race. Sheldon Creed, it's essentially a home game for him too. A lot to dive into. What are your thoughts on the Vegas race, and who are you picking as your driver to win and wild card?
Yeah. This race, I mean, it's exactly what you said. It's going to be, I think, a battle between the big dogs and in the top 8 here, and that's Ty Gibbs, Noah Gragson, Josh Berry, Justin Allgaier, AJ Allmendinger. I think those are the top guys right now in the series, and out of those guys, Allgaier, um, Ty Gibbs, Noah Gragson, I think those are the guys that are good on the mile and a halfs. AJ Allmendinger is pretty good as well, but I don't think he quite has the pace as those 3 cars. So I think you're looking for any of those 3 cars to win. And for me, I'm gonna roll with the hometown kid here this weekend here at Noah Gragson. Uh, Noah Gragson taking the victory here in Xfinity this weekend. To set up the run to the championship uh, going into Phoenix next month, the first weekend in November. So that's what I'm gonna go with. Uh, I think as wild card, I'm gonna go with Trevor Bayne here as wild card in the Xfinity Series. He's ran pretty well, in his time in the 18 car running. In part-time effort, ran top 5 a couple of times and generally looked impressive despite being away from the car for a while, and maybe could parlay this into a longer term or longer length number of races or more seat time in general for the 18 car or any other car for Joe Gibbs. So that's what I'm gonna go with this weekend in the Xfinity Series. Yeah, a lot of new entries in this race. John Hunter Nemechek also going to be in it. He could be a wild. I mean, that's probably another solid pick. Is John Hunter Nemechek is a wild card. Roger Carruth is going to be in, like you said. Jazz Cole, Haley Deegan, '07. That's going to be interesting. Parker Retzlaff ran pretty good during his time in his first couple races, so he could be another good wild card pick potentially. But running an our motorsports car, so not sure. But I mean, this race overall could be interesting to watch. Um, Watching this Raiders game, Derek Carr throwing it in the dirt with a minute 32 left, 3rd and 1. But we'll see. We'll see what happens this weekend. Definitely think it's going to be a race where clean air is a factor, but the Xfinity races at this track seem to be a little bit more interesting than Cup, but excluding 2022 with the next gen, but expect a lot of track position, but also uh there's probably going to be opportunities to pass, but we'll see what happens in this race and how the playoff field is affected by this race.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, good picks. I'm taking Gagson, kind of a giveaway in a sense for me. In that sense, I'm gonna go for the Xfinity Series race. You pick Gagson, I'll pick Keebler to win. He won earlier this year. He's versatile. I mean, he drives like a dick, so it kind of makes sense. He has to drive for his grandfather, so he is a dick, and he drives with the Napoleon complex. So I'm gonna pick Keebler Gibbs for. Oh, let's see. You picked. So I'm just gonna update this. Josh's picks for Xfinity at Vegas. Jackson to win, and
Oh yeah, I put it
you
in the wrong channel. Yeah, I put it in the
yeah,
general and it says picks.
and you said
Trevor Bain.
Trevor Bain wild card, and then Phil's picks for Xfinity at Vegas. Keebler to win and wild card. That's a good question. I'm gonna pick Daniel Emmerich. I'm gonna be a fanboy and elbows up. Daniel Emmerich. He's got nothing to worry about now. He has a job for next year. It's been an issue for him his whole career, knowing if he's gonna have an opportunity. He does have a job for next year. I'm sure Matt Collig is trying to get another charter. So the notion that he couldn't get an opportunity back in the Cup Series, it's still there. So Hemrick, he's free now. He's just going for wins. It's going to loosen up the whole entire team. I mean, their focus is trying to make sure that AJ Allmendinger goes and gets to the Final Four. But I'm going to pick Daniel Hemrick as a wild card. I mean, it's kind of a reach, but whatever. Essentially, he's right on the periphery of the top 10. He's out of the playoffs, so it's my show. I can do whatever the fuck I want. The Cup Series, South Point 400, only 36 cars this weekend at Las Vegas. The race earlier this year, Pennzoil 400, saw Alex Bowman win with a two-tire stop late over Kyle Larson. Ross Chastain led the most laps. Kyle Busch, second most laps, started tailback and came all the way up there. Clyde, third most laps, led. Hamlin had fourth. So, and he blew an engine he had a transmission drivetrain issue, so whether it was an engine, gearbox, whatever. Briscoe got wrecked early. Blaney was wrecked early. Suarez was dead last. So, I mean, of course, Suarez is not in the playoffs, but you look at Briscoe, who started fourth and got wrecked. Blaney was 11th. Those are two playoff guys. Hamlin, drivetrain issue after scoring points in both stages. Trying to go through this. Bubba ended up finishing 25th. Hamrick actually had a good run. Trying to go through who else is in playoffs. Yeah, Logano finished 14th. Christopher Bell started on pole, finished 10th. Yeah, Clyde 9th. Reddick, he's out of the playoffs, so it doesn't matter. Byron had good stage points, finished 5th. Chastain 3rd. Larson is out, and so is Alex Bowman. I'm not sure I'm forgetting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's 6? 6. Okay, so yeah, 6, 7, 8 was on the bottom there with Hamlin, Briscoe, and Blaney. But I get first dibs on picks for the Cup. It's interesting looking at where the season has gone. In terms of the 1.5 mile racetracks, length equal to 1.5 mile racetracks, oval, get rankings. The last 10 1.5 mile racetracks, 1.5 mile races. I mean, Larson is by far the best, has an 8.5 average finish. Chastain, Truex, Hamlin, Kurt Busch. Of course, Kurt Busch is not around. Bowman isn't going to be in this race either. So it's Larson, Chastain, Truex, Hamlin, Byron. When you consider the playoffs, 3 of the drivers are in the playoffs. Clyde is in there. Christopher Bell's in the top 10. Joey Logano's in the top 10. Briscoe's right outside. He's tied with Ryan Blaney. Blaney has 5 top 10s in the last 10. Briscoe only has 2 top 10s, but both of those are top 5s. Trying to look at who else is in this playoff here. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, yeah. So, in the last 10 races, and Mahomes gets another one. God bless him. When you're that good, you're that good. I mean, the one thing I would say is that the Toyotas are really, really good on these 1.5 mile racetracks. So there is the opportunity for a Bubba Wallace or Keebler or a Toyota like Kyle Busch to go and win, or Martin Truex, who hasn't won all year. He's great on these 1.5 mile racetracks. But I am going to go with Ross Chastain. Trackhouse is going to want to avenge the Roval and what happened there, and almost having both of their drivers fall out. I think Ross Chastain, he had a great car in March, probably should have won that race. Track position, pit strategy fell against him, but Chastain makes it to the Final Four. Now, whether he has a chance to actually win the championship, that's another discussion. In regards to a wild card pick at Vegas, I would go and say, because it's kind of open now. Anybody who's outside the top 8, they're just racing for the rest of the season. So I'm going to go and pick Harv as my wild card for this weekend. He's had a good record at Vegas over the years, been able to do stuff there. He almost won the Roval last week. It's kind of rough that he got eliminated in the first round. The kind of drivers we lost in the first round, it would have made this second round more intriguing, honestly. But, it's kind of how things go. So, Chastain to win, Harvick as my wild card. How about, what are you looking at, Josh?
I'm trying to unmute myself there, but no, I mean, I think, you got a good pick there with Ross Chastain, of course, led the most laps there. But, and you also mentioned Toyota being good on mile and a halves this year, of course. They won the last mile and a half with Bubba Wallace back in Kansas, and brings me to my next point here. I'm going to go roll with Denny Hamlin this weekend, taking the win, and setting himself up to go to Phoenix as the first playoff driver to secure a spot. I mean, they've had good speed, I feel like, as of late, on the 1 mile and a half tracks. They won the Coca-Cola 600, although it was more of luck than skill, but they did have a fast car there. Ran second at Kansas. ran good at Texas. They've had generally good speed on the mile and a half tracks this year. Nashville, not really a mile and a half, but kind of the same idea. They ran fourth at Kansas back in the spring. Good track, good finish there. Um, Las Vegas, they had issues at Las Vegas, but they led 31 laps there. So they Denny Hamlin I think is a good pick, probably the best of the remaining Toyotas. In this championship, there's only two left, so I think he is probably driven more than ever, especially with uh the issues with NASCAR right now and everything. But I think he can go out and secure his spot here in the playoffs and potentially finally win that elusive title that's been a problem for him in his career. So we'll see. We'll see what happens this weekend. As far as wild card, there's a lot of ways that you can go with this, and especially the playoff field begins to thin out. You can kind of see where how things are going. Um, I'm gonna pick. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Eric Jones as wild card this weekend. Like how he's ran this year, and he's been, he's already had one win at Darlington, of course, but I think had a chance at the end. I think of the Las Vegas race there at the end of the year, or at the end of the first Las Vegas race at the spring. Um, they had a crash with the last 10 laps or so of that race and caused the caution to come out. But they've ran pretty well overall this year in a lot of areas. So I could definitely see them being a factor here. Towards the end of this race for sure. They've improved a lot over the years, over the course of this season. So you know um, I think they could be someone to watch this weekend for sure. But expect more of what we saw, at Kansas, and what we saw at Las Vegas earlier this year, and even extending out into places like Nashville or anything like that. But um, I think this race is gonna be interesting. We'll see how tire wear affects compared to the spring. How well they can race mid pack, and then also how much does it take to really go for the lead, or is clean air going to be a really big factor? Although, next gen cars performed well on the mile and a half tracks, so we'll see.
Sorry, I had to go and click out of that. I was trying to go and multitask, going and trying to get our double points records in check while I'm also checking my hair, and I have to go and trim my widow's peak and all that. But um, it's something we'll see with Vegas. I think Homestead's going to be the wild card because you're not going to have any racing at Martinsville here in a couple weeks' time. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll talk about it next week on the GSP, um, where there will be talk about Homestead and Formula One US Grand Prix, et cetera, et cetera. Josh, what's going on with you? I know you were working last week and you're out of town for a little bit, but what's going on in regards to iRacing and Sim, also on the console platforms for the fans?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, last week, of course, was on business travel and everything, so didn't really have a whole lot of time to prepare or, well, to do anything on iRacing really until I got home. I did run a little bit of Daytona on the 87 car, just one race. It was probably one of my worst races ever in the Daytona in the Xfinity car. Just never was like really got up there to really be in contention, and just it seemed like couldn't get a handle like on the top lane. Like whenever the bottom lane stacked up, I would try to go to the top, or go to the second groove, and it just seemed like um I would get tight like corner like corner exit, or the center of 3 and 4 start to somehow get tight there and get up to the wall, and kept hitting the wall a couple of times. So it seemed like maybe the handling model in the 87 car changed, but just ran one in the 87 car, and then I think yeah I did try to attempt the road course, the Roval on the Cup car, and um I didn't really do too well there either, because I think I had the wrong setup and just kept getting loose off of turn two on the oval turn two, and in Charlotte, and everything, and then really didn't have good reference points for braking and stuff, because I haven't really had a lot of experience on that track, but wanted to try it because I like how the Cup car runs on the road courses in Xfinity, but you know we'll get back to it this week, though, later in the week, hopefully. Um, Las Vegas, on the Cup side, try that out potentially. Um, the I'm looking at these other tracks. There's a lot of opportunities here. Yeah, Watkins Glen potentially, and one of these cars, the Radical SR10 or something like that, might be a interesting challenge. Uh, Maybe in I'm trying to trying to find the 87 car here, where that is. NASCAR 87 here on there on iRacing. um iRacing NASCAR Legend Series at North Wilkesboro, so maybe I'll try that. I'm not sure yet if I have time. Production car sim lab challenge, road course series, basic level, entry level series with the Ford Mustang FR 500 and Mazda MX-5 at a Okayama circuit. It's always a good racetrack to run at. Uh, and thought I saw Devontae Adams push somebody to the ground while he was walking in the locker room. Probably can't blame him because he's frustrated and everything, but that is that. Oh, Auto Club Speedway, IndyCar Fixed, Oval Series at Auto Club, always a fun race, so maybe there potentially, if I have time. Open Series at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Road, let's see what else is there. Uh, Looking around here. Maybe USF 2000 at VIR. Homestead Indy Pro 2000 at Homestead Road Course. So yeah, always a lot of opportunity here. iRacing, a lot of variety here to run on on either ovals or road racing. There's plenty of flavors to go around there. Console, been playing a lot of Madden, trying to be the Jaguars and play there. You know, I can be a better quarterback playing Trevor Lawrence than Trevor Lawrence can, apparently, but it doesn't count for anything because it's just the video game, not real life. But that's how I try to do it, and definitely try to run the rock with James Robinson and Travis Etienne as much as possible. So maybe I'm a better play caller than Doug Peterson is, because he definitely needs to run the ball a little bit more than he has been. So maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's the key there, just run the ball. But yeah, so there's that. Of course, we have, just a reminder, we have the little partnership, I guess, with Map 360 Collective, and they gave us the tickets for Charlotte. They'll give us tickets for Homestead, and I think for Phoenix as well, which that might be interesting, or they may be giving out prize packs for us to give away or something like that, or for us. So keep that in mind. Of course, you can watch the race for the championship series, reality series on USA. Also stream on Peacock. Make an account there, or your favorite streaming service, or wherever you can find it. If you have a platform, YouTube TV or anything like that, so go watch it there. It's a pretty interesting series, going in the background of these drivers as they prepare for the season, as they go throughout the year, and kind of the behind the scenes aspect of and more behind things that we don't normally get to see outside the racetrack. and get a little bit more in depth about these drivers and their personalities and their lives beyond the track. So good series, and there's always opportunity to watch it wherever you like. But it's on USA Thursdays 10 p.m. So go watch there if you would rather not watch Amazon Prime in the Thursday night football, especially with Washington and Chicago. So definitely check that out. And then of course, always tune into the playoffs. Tune into the Las Vegas races this weekend on both NASCAR, Xfinity, and Cup. So of course, as the NASCAR closes out the year and we see these playoffs play out. Of course, we've already talked about it, but check it out, NBC there. So, of course, close out the show. You can follow me on my Twitter and follow, my thoughts and perspectives on NASCAR, Jacksonville Jaguars, and lots of other things that I'm interested in. Go watch me there and look at me talk about the Jaguars, and of course Twitch, where you can see my iRacing when I stream, Twitch TV/usailor2, and go on there, follow or subscribe, and see my racing videos when I post them or when I race there live. And then, of course, our YouTube channel, which this will be on later this week. Go on there, at youtube.com, Grip Strip Podcast. Go YouTube, or search that on YouTube and see our videos and everything. And most of them are up there. So go there and watch our YouTube or listen to it, whatever you want to do. And subscribe, give us comments, and give us feedback and everything like that. So yeah, I think that's all I got for the close. I'll let you do the rest of the show, Phil.
Thanks, man, as always, for doing your thing and supporting me, bringing all the content, your football takes. I think it's good now because you're gonna have some real thoughts because your quarterback is kind of flaky. So I'm liking the unfiltered Josh. It doesn't happen all that often, but it's fun to have him out. I would be remiss if we're still like 20 minutes left. It is still 10:10. So happy birthday to Junebug. Hey, Rick, got caution on the speedway. Gotta crash out of turn 4. Had to do it.
Oh my god, I forgot. I didn't forget. I knew it's Junior's birthday, and I just forgot to even mention it. Yeah, happy birthday, Dale Jr., age 48. Same number as Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy Johnson made that reference because they're BFFs. He's like, yeah, you want to probably stay there for a while. Like, caution on Speedway. I had to go and I was gonna bring it up. I knew I was gonna do it. There's I don't know who posted, every time Dale Jr. says problem on the track or whatever, he yells something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, I want that to be a video. I don't care. He's the only one that's watching. That's what that means. Rick Allen's looking at himself in a mirror, combing his hair. Jeff Burton doesn't know where the hell he is half the time. And Letard is so busy doing strat that he's not. I thought I cut this. It's almost like Bad Bangs, but to Junebug, happy birthday. You are a legend. You're the best announcer in the business. You're just like Buddy Baker or Ned Jarrett or Neil Bonnet or insert like Benny Parsons. You got all those people in there. You're also the most popular driver, and you have connections to the best teams in the sport. So happy birthday to you. You have a lovely wife and 2 lovely daughters. Nicole's the one that looks like you, and she really seems like you and your dad. What is it called? Isla's more like mom. Seems to be very soft or whatever. So
yeah, but she looks like Senior though. She's got Senior's face.
But Isla?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. She has.
I kind of think that
no, his
Nicole
his daughter Nicole has the has more of Junior's face, but if you look, she's got Senior's face. If you look at it,
Yeah, I have to
she's
go.
got a
Yeah,
resemblance.
I have to go look at that again. So, all right, that's the analysis you're going to get here on the GSP when they're analyzing Dale Jr.'s kids and who they look like. I kind of figured Isla looks more like mommy, but she also has looks of Dale Sr. And yeah, Junebug's going to have Ben Kennedy on, so on the DJD, and I'm sure DVC is going to have a lot of fire. And Speed Street, we're not hired by Dirty Mo Media, though. If Mike Davis knew what was good for him, he could hire us both. We'd be shills because I'm a Dale Jr. fan now. Josh is a Dale Jr. fan, and we could promote their shit. I'm not asking for us to be on Dirty Mo, but if we could get on Dirty Mo, just saying, I'd have passive income. Josh doesn't need it. He's high society. He's got a good job. But I definitely need the money. But either way, if we can make money off this shit, it would be pretty good. We're doing good here. You can find me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter. You can find us at GripsterPod on Twitter. Josh mentioned his handle. We're on YouTube at Gripster Podcast. We're on anywhere where you can listen to podcasts. We have fun here. Go through all kinds of racing. So we will be back for episode 139 of the GSP next week. Joe Passero will be on giving his takes on all things NASCAR. Doubleheader at Vegas. We'll go through that. We will small roundup with couple of motorcycle races and World or WRC World Rally Championship. Championship's already determined, but still have a few rounds to go. We will preview the U.S. Grand Prix at COTA and the triple header at Homestead. We'll talk about NFL. Josh will talk sim and anything else that comes up. Hopefully, the team I'm bowling against this week's the team I bowled 267 against last year. Hopefully, I can go better. Last week was probably one of the best weeks I've had in a while bowling. I bowled over 1,000, I think, across whatever like around like 1900 for 6 games or thereabouts. So I was bowling pretty good. Bowled like a 5 something, and I bowled like a 5. So I bowled over 1,000 for like 11, 12, and that's my fault. Freaking math was not working, but like 11, 1,200 for a set. So that's pretty good for two sets. So hoping for better this week, getting into position in the Tuesday league in New Brunswick mix, and then Thursday league we're playing position. We're in the bottom, but we'll see what happens with that. Kind of figured out some things last week. Hopefully we'll put up some honor scores, get to talk about it here on the GSP, and maybe we'll talk about a Chase Briscoe win, but we can wish. I'll take the bowling. That's a bonus. To Josh, thanks as always, brother, for doing your thing and being a great co-host and a friend. And we'll see one of our friends next week in Joe Passero, and great contributor. And for me, I'll be back. Hopefully my car will make it, and I'll make it through all the damn driving I have to do to barely make ends meet. And I'll have an honor score, and I'll be in the pots, and I'll make a few bucks. That's the goal. Make some extra money. We'll talk about that on episode 139 of the Grifter Podcast. For Josh, I'm Phil. Thanks for listening. Take care. God bless, and goodbye.